Hey, y'all, welcome to In My Feels But I'll Heal podcast, where we sip some tea, talk about some tea, laugh through the chaos, and get real about mental health and healing. I'm Denise, your host, here to remind you that it's okay to feel all the feels. And it's even better when we get to heal through them together. Let's take a deep breath, vibe out, and dive in. Hey, everybody, my name is Denise Morales with In My Feels But I'll Heal podcast, and I'm excited to finally be back with you all today. So it's been quite a while, but a lot has happened since the last time we met. And so I definitely want to just update you on what's been happening in my world. So recently I became a mom. And so I finally have my little baby Belen. She is now 4 months old. And the last podcast I was going to make, I ended up pretty much going into labor that week after or around those days. So it was definitely quite a trip that I went through. I had the baby, she's healthy, I'm recovering as well. But this journey of motherhood is something that I definitely want to speak on today. So, what is the journey of motherhood? How does it tend to look different? I know we've heard around postpartum depression, but sometimes we don't really get the gist of what is postpartum depression and how does it tend to affect women, and when it comes to people supporting individuals with postpartum depression, like how do we do that? How do we go about it? And so I hope that today we can just simply have a conversation of what is it, what do I do, and how do I help? So for me, I think I've been doing pretty well, but I think it's also been an effort of my community. And so, an effort of asking for the things that I need when I need them and not feeling bad for them, and mentally reassuring myself that baby is in good care. I feel like there is a high level of anxiety when moms are becoming moms and whenever the baby is here. And so for me, like one of my biggest fears, and I actually like decided to do something about it. I used to live on the second floor, and I had to go down like a long set of stairs, and I was scared to go up and down the stairs with the baby. That was like one of my biggest fears. So I was like, oh no, we got to change this. So I decided to go ahead and move to a different building floor, so I wouldn't make this a worry anymore. But anxiety tends to sometimes overrun our thoughts and our minds about baby safety, baby's well-being. What if the baby's crying a lot? Like, what does the baby need? And sometimes these thoughts can become very overwhelming and create a lot of pressure. And sometimes we do have a set of emotions that come up. Even sometimes now, taking time for yourself, like showering or taking a moment where the baby isn't around, a guilt can set in, such as like, am I a bad mom for asking time for myself? Or is it bad of me that somebody else is caring for my child and not me? But honestly, we're communal entities, we're communal beings, and our community provides a lot of support when it comes to bearing children. And sometimes it's needed just to carry out our day to day activities. And so for me, like at times I do try to arrange even my work schedule, because I knew I was going to have to go back into work. So mentally, whenever I was pregnant, I tried to reassure myself, like, okay, you're going back into work, you're going back into work. So I kept this narrative so I wouldn't be blindsided the moment I did have to go back to work, knowing that there was just going to be adjustments to my schedule, to my life. And honestly, those first couple of days integrating back into work were interesting. I was running late to my appointments. I didn't have the timing down. I would say that it was very much a time management thing, and the baby is on their own schedule. And so sometimes it did look like even preparing like an hour and a half rather than just an hour, and knowing that I'm not only getting myself ready, but I'm also getting this baby ready, was a whole nother ordeal. But sometimes also like preparing things the night before. So like if I knew that baby was going to go to grandma's, like having the formula and the bottles clean and the diapers and whatever else needed to be in the bag to be prepared. There was times where I felt like I didn't fully process the birth of my baby. And this is something I talk about with my partner. So for me, I ended up having an emergency C-section, and with my emergency C-section, I was heavily medicated, and it was all in a matter of minutes. So I went from, oh, the baby's going to be here naturally, to my water like really bursting, because it was very anticlimactic how I got to the hospital. I took a shower and I was like, oh, I don't feel too good. Let me go to the hospital. Went to the hospital. They let me sleep. And then the next day, they started me on Pitocin. And I was doing fine. I wasn't feeling any heavy like contractions or discomforts. And then I don't know where then like I had like a strong like drop in my stomach and like a combustion of like the amniotic fluid that was, I guess, a bit concerning to the doctors. And so they checked on me to see how far along I was for being dilated, and they felt the baby's hands. And that was indication to them that Belen needed to come out. And so within 15 minutes of just seeing nurses come in and out, which really set in a lot of anxiety for me, seeing a lot of people come in and out the room, not being told quite yet what is happening, but I just could sense that it was not good news. And so pretty much the doctor came in and she said, sweetie, we're going to have to do a C-section. And so no more than 15 minutes later, I was in the operating table, and the baby was said to be here. The operation wasn't bad itself. I do remember feeling, I got the epidural, and they put pressure on my stomach to kind of push the baby out. And then I think it was the moment where we fantasize of skin to skin contact with our children, and having this moment after they're born to kind of have an emotional release of like, my daughter is here, was the moment where I tell my partner I felt like I was robbed from. And so for me, I do remember kind of like seeing her, and then I knocked out. Like I felt like I blacked out. I was throwing up profusively from the medication they gave me. It was just really strong. And I know I got wheeled into a different room, and I was maybe conscious for a few minutes, knowing that like my daughter was put on me, and then I just fell asleep. And I asked my partner, like, how long were we there for? And he was like, we were there for like an hour. I do not recall being there for an hour. So my baby spent some time in the NICU for like a week recovering, but she was keeping her weight, her temperature, and she was keeping up to her goals for food consumption. So she was right a long way. And I would say my baby is a blessing. She was born on Palm Sunday and then came home on Good Friday. And so finally on Good Friday, we brought her home. So she spent some time in the NICU, and I mentally processed like, my baby's in the best place she can be. She was with doctors and nurses in case she needs anybody. And I try to soothe myself and allow myself some time to go take a shower and catch up with some sleep. I was pumping as much as possible to get her some milk, so she can try to have like my breast milk instead of formula. Now we just do 50-50, so it's not too much of a big deal, at least for me, and baby's healthy and she's happy. But there was times where I went home and I just hadn't processed that I just had a child. And so the way that this would look like for me is at moments where I would take a shower. And I tell this to a lot of my patients, like, you know, whenever we feel like we don't have a lot of time, how are you taking your showers? Are you taking your time taking a shower? Or are you just rushing to get out? And so this is something to consider if you're a person that's always constantly rushing. Are you taking your time? And so here, for me, I would go ahead and take my shower, and I would give myself an opportunity to just really breathe. And I would do my box breathing. So if you're not familiar with box breathing, think about like a little square. And so we're starting at one square. You're inhaling your air 4 seconds, and then you're holding 4 seconds. You exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold it again, and then you start all over again, your box breathing. And so I would go into my box breathing, and then I would have a heavy sense like kind of loom over me. And so this is where we go into how do we sit with our emotions, right? When we feel an emotion and we're not trying to tuck it away, but we know we need to process it through it. And so the way to sit with our emotions is to begin by being curious. So I let this emotion sit in. I didn't judge it. So don't judge your emotions and feelings. Don't say this is good or this bad. No, don't cry or nothing. Just allow it to kind of come in and be present and be curious about the emotion. Let yourself get carried through that emotion. So for me, it would feel like crying, and then I would have a mental gratitude of I'm blessed and my daughter's fine, and we're here and we made it through. And so sitting with that emotion for a little bit and just breathing through it, allowing myself to cry. Is it really crying if you're in the shower? Because nobody can really tell. That's my funny joke, at least. But just allowing that emotion to sit in whenever you are having a moment to yourself, and just breathing through it, and then just allowing myself to close my eyes and letting the water just drip over my body and my face, and continue my breathing. And then whenever you're ready, kind of like resurfacing, and taking a big sigh. So like taking that breather afterwards, and then just going back into my day. I did realize that it was hard for me to do self-care, period, after pregnancy. I feel like a lot of that got neglected through my dental hygiene and like my showering, but eventually ended up being more consistent. And I started asking for help of like, hey, can you watch the baby? Or like even having like the baby's like little bouncer in the shower too, so I can like have a moment to shower. But I was realizing for the first couple of weeks that a lot of my showers were mindful and intentful. I was having these deep moments of reflection that lasted maybe like a good handful of times, maybe like 5 times. And then after that, I started having like a better outward experience of how I was processing things and how things were going. And a lot of this mental processing is also like, how do you see this as an addition to your life? There were some nights where baby was crying for multiple hours, 1 of 5, just unconsolable. And it was a difficult phase to get through. But then I try to think, okay, the baby's healthy, baby's awake. She's crying for her needs. Okay, let me change her. Let me feed her. Let me bounce her. The one thing she needs is mom's touch. And so also being very like forgiving of myself. I'm a first time parent. And also it's going to have its learning curves. Like baby's learning how to be human and mom is learning how to be mom. So all of these come with new experiences, not only for me, but for the baby. And through this experience, I would say that it's grown me in different ways, in different capacities. I wouldn't change it for the world, but it's definitely been an adjustment to my life. I definitely thank the individuals that tapped in on me, such as sending me coffee, such as like sending me food, or bringing over supplies and materials when I needed them, from adult diapers or bottles for the baby, or clothes for myself, or giving me a moment to go to sleep while people cleaned up the home. And so when we talk about how do we help people or help moms whenever they're going through coming home with their babies, right? Respecting their boundaries. And so some moms would like to have some time where, nobody is around, or if you are coming around, like wash your hands and hand sanitizer, and or keep your distance from the baby. And obviously you can still participate in the home, which is kind of the route that I took. Wash your hands, hand sanitizer, obviously hold the baby, no kissing the baby. So respecting the boundaries of the mom. And then being clear with how are you choosing to help. Some people, right, always want to help with just the baby and leave the cleaning up to you. But sometimes help looks very different to different people. So ask the mom and how they want to be helped. And if you're honestly there to help, then you will do whatever it means that the mom needs help with. And so if it is that you're cleaning the dishes, sweeping, mopping, watching the baby while mom gets at least 30 minutes to an hour of rest, Some of these moments to decompress are very necessary when it comes to just pretty much getting back to ourselves, or this new sense of self and learning our ways. Especially for our community, I would say that it's important to show up, send encouraging messages, at least for the other side. Whenever my friends were pregnant and I was not, and I was not a mother yet, sometimes we can tend to take things personal, like, oh, she isn't replying back. Like, I've been messaging her or been trying to hang out with her. It is so rough. Like, I literally felt like I fell off the face of the earth for quite a while, and I am just now resurfacing. And obviously there's still some constraints into my participation with outdoor activities, with like family or friends or other colleagues. Because now a lot of my time is based on, okay, like, can the baby come with me, and how does this fit into baby schedule and family schedule? And so definitely some of these spaces take an adjustment, but it's all doable with time. And definitely if you're a person that is having a difficult time, and what are the symptoms to pick up on? Self-isolation is something to pick up on, crying spells. If you're having body tensions and aches, pay attention to these. Take care of yourself medically as well. If you're having moments where you're having a hard time sleeping, obviously your schedule tends to be very interrupted with a newborn in the home. Very understandable. But even outside of that, like, if there's moments where you just can't get your rest, or you're having sweats where it's cold or hot sweats, those are anxiety related symptoms. But depressive symptoms can look like very negative thoughts. That's self-isolation that we spoke about. So pay attention to your symptoms. Definitely be transparent. Ask for help. There's definitely help for you out there whenever it comes to your postpartum and your postpartum care. Taking care of yourself is very important. I like to think about the biopsychosocial model. So biologically, psychologically, and socially. So, and all of these encompass your well-being. And so biologically, this can be like our nutrition, our physical exercise, our genetics, our hormones, like how are we doing physically? This can even be chronic diseases, and also taking medication management. But if we have such disturbance in our biological bubble, I would put it right here, then that tends to affect us socially. And so socially here, we're socially and psychologically, right? So psychologically, let me go there first. We're thinking about our mood, our regulation, coping tools, mechanisms, how we're showing up, and like if any sense of what's going on with us biologically is irritating us or keeping us from keeping our focus and not being conductive towards our mood regulation, then like we have been affected in that bubble. And then socially in this bubble, I say these are infrastructures, how we affect the world and how the world affects us. And so when we think about our social bubble, this can be our family, our culture, our traditions. This can be our work environment. So am I coming up for maternity leave? Am I already due for coming back from FMLA? Do I have insurance? And so the infrastructures that affect us, or if I'm Mexican Latina and my moms want me to do the cuarentena for 40 days, but is that really like live my lifestyle? Do I feel pressured to do these things? Am I able to keep up with it? Do we feel like it's just stressing us out more? And then our coping tools and mechanisms, like, do I have my support systems? Am I having time to self-care? Am I having time to regulate my emotions? Also in the midst of all the hormone changes that are happening biologically. And so there's just a lot of changes that tend to happen when it comes to our journey of motherhood. And definitely we need some good supports, but I'm happy I was able to talk to you today and tell you a little bit about how I was in my feels and still healing from my postpartum and everything that's been going on with me and my motherhood journey. But thank you for listening to me, and I hope that you get to see the next episode of In My Feels But I'll Heal podcast. And I'm excited to bring to you some more guest speakers. And if you like just hearing me, let me know too. We can cover any subjects or topics that you definitely want to hear about. But thank you. Have a great day.